Hi, my name is Natalie Brewer. I'm from MIS 7610 Team 10, and today I'm going to be presenting our semester project, which was proposed changes for the University of Memphis student registration portal. So in our project planning phase, we analyzed the functions of the University of Memphis course registration portion of the Internet Native Banner system. Banner is the primary record organization system that's used by the University of Memphis. So through our personal experiences and initial research, we determined the issues most frequently reported by users across all levels of the university, from students to administration. And we used that information to create our project vision, which is to create a highly accessible system to provide users with specific information on a personalized basis. Implemented modifications will have impacts across the entire organization and will improve user interface and efficiency while adhering to FERPA regulations. So through our conducted research and our proposed plan, we will simplify the user interface and improve the overall user experience, identify deficiencies in information delivery and discover a means to improve, and identify deficiencies in customer service and discover a means to improve. So our project aligns with the strategy of the University of Memphis by improving the overall user experience and just streamlining the system for both new and returning students. As one of the first places that prospective students view on the University of Memphis website, the interface should reflect the branding, mission, and goals of the organization. So additionally, the improved interface and structure will add value to the university by making the registration for courses easier. Our project scope is to maintain uniformity by evolving the friendly environment for everyday users. It's primarily the students who want to make changes to their information. They want to register for a class. They want to apply to the university. And so there's a lot of clicks that it takes to make things happen currently. And we just really want to simplify that into the least amount of clicks possible. Secondary objective for the project is to create auto-generated electronic mail notifications for every status posted on the university website. Currently, there are no email notifications provided to students for any changes on the website, which is not just inconvenient, but it could also be a security issue. It has straightforward and comprehensible instructions for the students, the faculty, and the administration. So for our requirements determination portion, we used one-on-one surveys with the University of Memphis ITS and faculty, and then we also used surveys specific to students and faculty. So outlining our to-be features, as I said, the auto-generated email to be set up, creating a single-click screen so users can browse through courses without leaving the main registration page. And we also want to use a CAPTCHA verification, so this would improve the security of the website. The above suggestions can be beneficial for the administration's faculty and students, for current and future students. This is our entity relationship diagram, which displays the relationships between the various players interacting with the system and its services. In particular, the student's interaction and relationship with the registration system and the course catalog. So the student profile is pulled from student records. The student then views the course catalog, which is displayed within the registration section of the portal. So moving into our design acquisition strategy, these were our three alternatives. So alternative one was to outsource the project, which we selected a prepackaged website add-on from Ellucian, which is the provider of Banner. Major risk would be that an RFP would affect the project schedule. We estimated the cost to be about $120,000. Functionality changes to the interface in the future would not be possible with this option. So a new RFP and a new add-on would have to be created if there were any future changes. No additional human resources would be needed. We would have full technical support from Ellucian. And the implementation should be pretty smooth with that because Ellucian Banner is already in place. So alternative number 2 was to develop all of this in-house. So developing an add-on in-house by hiring a new ITS employee specific to the role. It could be a temporary position. Major risk would be ITS position would have to be approved by directors. And then we estimated this cost to be about $90,000 for the employee's salary. The functionality changes could be made as necessary. So this is something we would have complete control over. The new ITS developer would have to be hired. Support must be supplied in-house and would not be supported by Ellucian. So with the implementation of it, it would be a longer time frame, specifically because it might not be somebody who is familiar with Ellucian. And that was another thing, was that we might have to include that in a price, that we would have to hire a sit-in Ellucian representative for the implementation process, which would be an additional cost. The add-on would need to be prototyped before implementation as well. Alternative number 3 was to build a custom add-on. So for this, we recommend hiring the outside firm to create the add-on, which would be Speak Creative, they're a marketing firm located in Memphis. The RFP acquisition will affect the project schedule. We estimate this to be about $100,000 for the add-on plus $40,000 for implementation support, or implementation and continued support rather. Changes could be made as necessary. Again, with that extra cost, we could have continued support. No additional human resources would be needed within the university. Support would have to be supplied in-house and would not be supported by Ellucian. But again, with that extra cost to Speak Creative, you could have continued support. And implementation would most likely need Ellucian support. So the University of Memphis does have somebody who is specific to Ellucian, but they're not an Ellucian representative. And so we think that using them or utilizing that would be beneficial. So continuing on with the design acquisition strategy, because the implementation timeline would be relatively short, the university does need to use a packaged system for the system enhancement. So that gets rid of the in-house option, which is alternative number 2. Identifying a package system that has a flexible user interface will be ideal. And in-house developers should have the ability to manipulate it to match brand standards and more closely resemble the main memphis.edu website. Because of this necessity, that does eliminate alternative number 1, which was to use the Ellucian add-on, which left us with alternative number 3. So for the new user interface, we recommend that the ITS team hire Speak Creative, a local Memphis marketing and website design agency, to develop a new website add-on that will rework the page layout for the registration portion of Banner. So moving into architecture design, we recommended a 3-tier architecture design for online student registration portal. According to the design, students register through the devices and the data is then transferred through the browser to the web server. The created ID and the data is then transferred to the database server, which stores the user's details. This architecture reduces complexity and all the participants' data and requests will be transferred from their devices to the data server. The web server is also a protected network to deal with sensitive information, which helps us adhere to FERPA compliance. Moving into user interface design. By combining the various pages included in the current user interface into one single page, we can significantly reduce the number of clicks it takes for a user to find the information they're looking for. Additionally, it will simplify the process of adding course numbers to the worksheet by automatically adding the data when it is selected. So you can see our inputs here. input validation, the system will use a format check to ensure that only numerical values are added to the worksheet fields. And the system will use a database check to validate student selections by analyzing necessary permits, holds, and prerequisites for courses based on the student's UID number. The submissions produce a detailed report that's displayed in the registration notification after the student submits the CRN worksheet, which you can see on the next slide. So for the use scenario, which describes the instances in which all individuals likely to use the registration system would do. In this case, the scenarios involve both a new and returning student. So for the new student to the left, the user is using the system for registering at the school for the first time, and will go through preliminary steps before being able to register. So the user may search for a specific class or browse through a class subject. The user will likely read basic information for several classes, as well as the information about the professors and the schedule. The user will copy the CRN number and will continue browsing classes. Eventually, the user will want to register for the class, but may look through CRNs copied, possibly discarding some of them first. For the returning student to the left, the user knows exactly what she wants and wants it quickly. So the user will search for a specific class. The user will look at the schedule, time, professor, and enough other information to confirm that that is the desired class. And then the user will want to register for a class or move on to other websites. So in our 2B scenario, for the new student to the right, the user is using the system for registration with the school for the first time, and then we'll go through preliminary steps before being able to register. The user may search for a specific class or browse through a class subject. The user will likely read basic information for several classes, as well as the information about the professors and schedule. And eventually, the user will want to register for a class and will decide which ones to register for based on the descriptions they've read. Obviously, you can see that this has eliminated the step of copying the CRN numbers. For the returning student, the user will search for a specific class. The user will look at the schedule, time, professor, and enough other information to confirm that the class is the desired class. And the user will want to register for the class or move on to other websites. So here you can see a rough outline of what we want the interface to look like. So this is all on one screen. You have your main menu bar at the top of the page across all banner pages. It remains the same. The embedded hyperlinks remain under the menu bar, just as they are now. The scrollable menu, which is currently on its own page, remains at the top left beneath the main menu bar. This stays on the page at all times. Once a selection is made in the scrollable menu, the listing of available courses for that area appears to the right in another scrollable bounding box. So typically, these two things will be on the screen at all times. After clicking View Sections on a course in that scrollable menu, the sections will appear beneath it. The Add Classes worksheet is a sticky menu that remains at the bottom of the window until it is closed. When a student clicks the blue hyperlinked CRN numbers in the section listing, the CRN number will appear in the Add Classes worksheet in one of the empty boxes. The interface structure diagram for this project depicts the various pathways the user will take when interacting with both the current interface and the proposed interface. So in the as-is diagram, the user will look up classes, select the term, course search, course selection, and then that will bring them to either register for the class, add it to a worksheet, or conduct a new search. If they choose to register for the class, then they have the option of submitting their changes, returning to the class search, or resetting, which will bring them back to the register page. In our 2B system, the user will look up classes, select the term, select the course search, course selection, which will bring them to register, add to worksheet, reset. If they choose to register, it terminates the use scenario. The email is sent, the confirmation email rather, is sent to their Memphis email address. If they choose to add it to the worksheet, it just adds it to the worksheet at the bottom of the page, and they can continue browsing. If they choose to reset, it will bring them back to course selection, and it will also clear the CRNs that are currently in their worksheet. So with data storage design, in the data storage process, there are some storage formats, either file format or data format. In the project, it followed database because it's a collection of grouping of information. And all of the data is stored in a storage area network, which is accessed through the internet and landline. Here, the data is depending on the information of entity relationship diagram. So this is the representation of data storage. PK would be the primary key and FK would be the foreign key. There's a many-to-many relationship between student and course, and then a one-to-many relationship between course and program. So for our implementation and transition plan, for assigning programming tasks and coordinating activities, for this phase of the implementation, a small team of 3 to 5 people will be selected from the current ITS team to work with Speak Creative and their implementation team. So one of these team members will act as a liaison to Speak. One will act as a liaison to Ellucian, and the remaining team members will work alongside the implementation team to ensure security and data compliance with existing systems. For documentation development, the general functions of the user interface are remaining the same. So as the layout is the only thing that's changing, during the integration testing phase, the current user documentation, which would be the manuals, tutorials, or guides, will be updated to correspond with the new layout. So the optimal time window for implementation is between February 1 and April 1. During this time window, there is a significantly less number of users needing access to the system. As classes have already started, there's a very small group that will be registering for summer classes or May classes. The RFP should be submitted in the previous July at the beginning of the fiscal year, and the majority of the documentation should be completed prior to February 1st. And this window will give 8 weeks for implementation and testing, which we feel is more than enough. So some additional notes is that users will have access to a report a problem button in the embedded hyperlinks at the top of the page. This will be a link that will connect users directly with the ITS help desk. And another option that we would recommend keeping would be, should the implementation take longer than anticipated or if significant issues arise, that the old interface is still accessible throughout the testing period. So should an issue arise and students need to get access to register for their classes, they could be redirected back to the old interface. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. Our written document is also available, and we are available if you have any questions or concerns. So yeah, thank you for listening.